Welcome to In the Zone, and I am so glad that you are locked in the zone. So much has happened since the last time we were in the zone, and I'm not going to try to rehash everything that has happened, but I am going to give you what is happening currently, if that makes any sense to you, as we step into the zone. And seem like Michigan is just always in the news for the wrong reason. First, Jim Harbaugh suspended because of recruitment violations according to the NCAA. I mean, seriously, was that hamburger really worth a 4-game suspension? I mean, really, think about it. A hamburger cost you 4 games. Or was it because you actually lied to the NCAA? I mean, come on now. I'm still tripping off of that 4-game suspension over that hamburger. And I'm pretty sure some fries and a Coke or a shake went with that as well, too. But now, it's getting even murkier, or situation, whatever words you want to come up with. I mean, this situation is strange, mysterious. Anyway, a suspended Michigan staffer reportedly bought tickets to more than 30 Big Ten games. Well, when you see that, you say, well, he has a right to buy 30 tickets. Or does he? Let's see how this story turns out. So, suspended Michigan analyst Connor Stalions, who is at the center of the Wolverines' alleged sign stealing scandal, is believed to have purchased tickets to more than 30 games at 11 Big Ten schools over the last 3 seasons, ESPN reported on Monday. Stalions bought the tickets under his own name, and the NCAA is expected to obtain video evidence this week of the illegal technology as part of its investigation into Michigan's alleged sign stealing, ESPN added in its report. One Big Ten school connected a fan who appeared to be recording a game on their cell phone to a ticket for a game that Stalions purchased this season by using in-stadium technology, according to ESPN. Stalions also forwarded tickets he bought to at least 3 different people, ESPN reported. The Associated Press confirmed through officials at 3 Big Ten schools that they had found electronic purchases of game tickets in Stalions' name. The officials spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity because no one was authorized to speak publicly about an ongoing investigation. Also, now you're after a person who purchased tickets electronically. Of course, that's the norm nowadays. I mean, someone can send me tickets, and all I have to do is just take and have this QR code scanned. So that's electronic means and ways. So to me, it seems like nothing wrong. But then you have people speaking, but don't you put my name on this because I ain't supposed to speak on this. I know about a suspension. I was suspended from a job and eventually got terminated. They told me I couldn't speak to anybody about the situation because it was ongoing investigation. Well, it didn't stop me from speaking because part of my rights as an American is I feel like I have free speech. I was just careful who I talk to. That's all I'm saying. Do you really trust the media? When you say, hey, I'm speaking, but don't put my name. Do you trust them? Especially if media personnel may know you. I'm pretty sure they know someone that knows someone. Hey, I spoke with such and such, and this is what they say about this. Anyway, let me get back on track. One school found ticket purchases under Stallion's name to at least 4 of its home games over the past 2 years, one of the people said. Another school found ticket purchases under Stallion's name to 5 home games over the last 3 seasons, and that some of the tickets were electronically transferred to other individuals' name, another person said. A third school found a purchase under Stallion's name to a game 2 weeks before its team played Michigan last season, another person said. Which was a whole lot of people saying something. I mean, he said, you know what? I'm gonna use this in biblical reference. Anybody remember the story about Job, and you know how he had a lot, and all of a sudden, his cattle ended up dying, his children died, but there was always one person that had to come by and tell him, "Hey, this is what happened. This is what this sounds like. This sounds like the story of Job to you Bible scholars out there." I know this is not a Bible podcast, but that's what came to mind. So. Anyway, news of NCAA's investigation into Michigan's alleged sign stealing first emerged last week. The Big Ten was notified of the NCAA's investigation on October the 18th, saying it notified the Wolverines' future opponents in the 2023 season of the allegations. Michigan was accused of plotting to steal future opponents' signals by sending them representatives to record their games. Michigan announced that Stallions would be suspended with pay on October the 20th as the NCAA conduct this investigation. Anyway, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh denied knowledge of the alleged scheme. Of course, what coach does not deny? Here just recently, Bill Self and KU's team, they were basically found not guilty of some charges. And of course, the coaches, as always, they never know how this stuff happens. I mean, Rick Pitino, think about it. Not at my watch. I have no idea that all this stuff was happening. You know, with the strippers and this extracurricular activity going on outside of basketball. You even heard Jim Boeheim at Syracuse throw out this word, not at my watch. I mean, what coach have you ever heard say, well, you know, I am aware of this and you know, I've talked to the people involved and, you know, we're going to suspend. You never hear a coach say that. They all say the same thing. I had no acknowledgement of this. So it's natural that Jim Harbaugh is going to say that. But I also think Jim Harbaugh saying this, he's also plotting his exit strategy. I don't care if Michigan wins national championship, loses in the national title game, or the game ends up in a dead gridlock tie. I believe Jim Harbaugh is trying to find his way out of Michigan. He sorely wants to get back to the NFL. At best, the relationship between Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, it is not a bed of roses. It is not peaches and cream. But he says, I do not have any knowledge of information regarding the University of Michigan football program illegally stealing signals, nor have I directed any staff member or others to participate in an off-campus scouting assignment. You wonder, though, if Jim Harbaugh is telling the truth on this, if he couldn't tell the truth about a hamburger, a Coke, and fries. Harbaugh said in a statement after the news broke on October 19th, I have no awareness of anyone on our staff having done that or having directed that action. NCAA rules. So now we move into the part where Michigan is under investigation for sign stealing. And now we have comments from R.J. Young as he weighs in. And let's see what he has to say about
Michigan and the sign stealing investigation that they are under. So here are the facts, just so we are all on the same page here. The NCAA is investigating the Michigan football program for allegations of sign stealing. Now, the rule in question is NCAA bylaw 11.6.1, and it goes, quote, off-campus in-person scouting of future opponents in the same season is prohibited, end quote. The NCAA claims that Michigan is using a, quote, vast network, end quote, to steal opposing team signs. Conspiracy to steal signs. Yahoo reported that Michigan may have, quote, used unnamed individuals, unquote, to attend games and scout signs used by, quote, scheduled opponents and possible college football playoff opponents, end quote. ESPN later reported that, quote, a low-level staffer with military background, end quote, is one of the keys to the scheme. His name is Connor Stallions. He was suspended with pay earlier in the week. Connor Stallions went to Navy, was a Marine, and worked logistics while wanting to be a football coach. Had been a grad assistant at Michigan, came back there to work for them, and apparently has gotten really good at stealing signs, right? Whether that's watching game copy, TV copy, or being in the stands. That's what we're trying to figure out, because being in the stands is apparently against it. But I don't know about y'all, but I watched Michigan just handle Michigan State, and Michigan State create more problems for itself. I'm not going to talk about that story. I'm just going to say go look up Michigan State in the video board if you are so interested. But Michigan is the number one team in the country for me, okay? And they ain't got a damn thing with stealing signs. They don't need to steal your signs. They don't. They're just better than you.
And who can argue with that? That's all you needed from R.J. Young. So yeah, NCAA rules don't prohibit teams from stealing signs. However, there are rules against using electronic equipment to record an opponent's signals. And RJ also mentioned, he said something in regards to stealing signs. He says, whether you're at the stadium or if you're watching it on TV. I mean, they can't stop you if you're at home watching TV. I mean, it's stated right here. NCAA rules don't prohibit teams from stealing signs. They don't prohibit. And like he said, why would you steal signs from Michigan State with all the turmoil and hell that they're going through? Michigan State is a program that's self-destructing on its own. Michigan does not need to steal signs. And, you know, it always happens when it's an upper echelon team and a lower tier team. Think about it. I think it was the New York Jets accused the New England Patriots of sign stealing. It was called Spygate. Now we got Spygate Part 2 in college football. Let's just call it like it is. But it goes on. However, there are rules against using electronic equipment to record an opponent's signals. The NCAA also prohibits teams from scouting future opponents in person, with NCAA bylaw 11.6.1 stating off-campus, in-person scouting of future opponents in the same season is prohibited. The rule was put into place in 1994 because not every school had the finances to do it. Oh, hogwash. It don't take much for a person to hop in a car and drive to a game. If you're not that far away to where you don't have to fly, if you're talking about budget, of course, college football is a $1 billion a year industry, probably multi-billion dollar. I mean, college football is the cash cow, which is why we're dealing with conference alignment right now as we speak. And you're going to tell me the rule was put into place because not every school had the finances to do it? That was 1994. This is 2023. If you can make rule changes to the game of football then hey, that's all I'm saying. Think about it. Think about it. There were tickets purchased under Stallion's name on both sides of the stadium for the Week 8 game between Penn State and Ohio State. Also, he's been a fan of both schools, huh? Who both played Michigan in November, but they were not used, ESPN reported. Stallings is a retired captain in the Marine Corps and a graduate of the Naval Academy. He was hired as an off-field analyst at Michigan in May 2022, according to LinkedIn profile that has been deactivated. Michigan continued its undefeated season 2 days after news of the investigation came to light, arguably having its most dominant performance of the year by defeating the school that ratted them out, Michigan State, 49-0. There's a target, yeah, Harbaugh told reporters after Sunday's game. Everybody has pointed that out from the beginning of the season, but our guys are very focused. There's been stuff. There's been attempts to diminish the team in a lot of ways, starting with the easy schedule. They just play. Anyway, what I'm going to do right here, because this story can go on and on and on. I got some more stuff to get to. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do, though. I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, we're going to look at some more on the national scene. So don't you dare go nowhere. You're locked in the zone with Anthony. Good morning. Welcome back to In the Zone. I hope you are having a wonderful day thus far, wherever you may be listening to this podcast at. Like I always tell people, follow me, share this podcast. I mean, I want this stuff to go viral. And you out there can help get me over the top. And yes, I am very appreciative to all of you who take the time out to listen to my podcast, to make it what it is. I do this because I have fun doing this, but I also do this because it gives me a chance to network and meet other people. And I have met some wonderful people. I've interviewed some great people, but it's all because you, the listeners, and I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your listenership. And I would also cherish your constructive criticism and your feedback as to the content that you would like to listen to. And like I said, it's been a while. I said that in the onset. It's been a while. The weekend before last weekend, I had the chance to celebrate my year wedding anniversary with my beautiful wife. Yes. We made it 1 year. We spent some time in Kansas City. We got to visit some historic places down there on Vine, the Negro League Baseball Museum, which that's going to be some of my content coming up here in the future, in the near future, not distant, but in the near future. So yes, I'm going to expand to some Negro League Baseball history. I mean, if you haven't went to the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, you need to go. Do not bypass death until you make it to the Negro League Baseball Museum. Also inside there was Jazz Museum and a lot of rich black history. I mean, to me, this would be like the comparison to Black Wall Street in Tulsa. unlike what happened in Tulsa with that situation, a lot of this uh, history was preserved. You got to learn about 17th, 18th, and Vine and why it was so prevalent. Because what a lot of people fail to realize and have failed to remember, even though when you hear about New Orleans, you think about jazz, Kansas City was also a very prominent place for jazz stops. It was like the middle ground. So a lot of rich history inside that building that me and my wife visited. But anyway, getting back into some more sports talk. Wisconsin coach Luke Fickell on facing his alma mater, Ohio State. He simply says, it's not about me. And in college football, it is amazing how, we look at the coaching matchups. I mean, if when if there's a national title game, let's say, because this has happened, Alabama and Clemson, how often do we say Nick Saban versus Dabo Swinney? How often do you hear that narrative? How about here in Kansas? We have the Sunflower Showdown coming up in a few weeks. And the first thing you're going to hear is Lance Leipold against Chris Kleiman. It's as if the spotlight is on the coaches. But it's the players that's out there risking injury. Anyway, Wisconsin coach Luke Fickell wants to keep the focus off himself as former Ohio State nose guard and interim head coach leads the Badgers against his alma mater. It's not about me, Fickell said at his Monday news conference. I know we have some guys on our staff, myself included, that have some obvious history there, whether they went to school there or played there, but that's not what it's about. But after going through similar scenarios a few times already, Fickell understands the questions will come as the Badgers, 5-2, 3-1 Big Ten, prepare to host the third-ranked Buckeyes, Old Bucky, 7-0, 4-0 on Saturday night. Fickell was born in Columbus, Ohio, the site of Ohio State's campus. He started 50 straight games for Ohio State from 1994 to 1996. He spent the 1999 season there as a graduate assistant and was an assistant for the Buckeyes from 2002 to 2016, making him a part of 2 national championship teams. He worked as an assistant coach under Jim Tressel's staff, posted a 6-7 record as interim head coach in 2011 following Tressel's resignation, and stayed on as co-defensive coordinator on Urban Meyer's staff for 5 seasons. Fickell is hardly the only Wisconsin coach with ties to Ohio State. Defensive coordinator Mike Tressel, who worked as a Buckeyes graduate assistant from 2002 to 2003, is Jim Tressel's nephew. Cornerbacks coach Paul Haynes was an assistant coach at Ohio State from 2005 to 2011. Fickell has faced his alma mater twice before. He was Akron's defensive line coach in 2001 when the Zips lost 28-14 at Ohio State. He was head coach at Cincinnati in 2019 when the Bearcats visited Ohio State and fell 42-0. He says those experiences taught him the attention should go to the players rather than to any coaches who might have connections to both schools. It's about our team, Fickell said. It's about our program. It's about the journey we're on and the process we're in. Not the specifics of, hey, you went to school there. Hey, you played there. Hey, you got guys on your staff from there. When the ball's kicked off, that will have absolutely no effect on anything that happens on that field. So we try to just focus on the things that will have the greatest effect on Saturday night. Wisconsin's focus will be stopping Ohio State's recent domination of this series. The Buckeyes have won the last 9 meetings with Wisconsin, including a 52-21 blowout last season. Wisconsin's last victory came in 2010 when the 18th-ranked Badgers beat a top-ranked Ohio State team 31-18 in Madison. Wisconsin comes into this game with some momentum after erasing a 14-point deficit, a 14-point fourth quarter deficit Saturday in a 25-21 victory at Illinois. That marked the first time since 2018 that the Badgers had won a Big Ten game after trailing by at least 14 points. Fickell, who is in his debut season at Wisconsin, said the Badgers showed a different level of will, passion, and intensity during that game that he'd seen from them. That was probably, to me, more exciting than the win itself, was to see how our guys handled, how they came back, and to show that will and that passion that I needed to see from us, Fickell said. So the stage is being set for the return of Luke Fickell and his Wisconsin Badgers as they venture into the big house, the horseshoe, whichever one they call it, and take on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Did I say the Ohio State? I'm going to drop the. As they go to take on Ohio State Buckeyes. I wish somebody would say something to me about disrespecting their name. Anyway, as we continue on, Georgia is number one for the 19th straight poll. Alabama is back in the top 10. So Georgia extended its streak of number one rankings in the Associated Press college football poll to 19 straight weeks, the third best in history of the rankings. Alabama moved back into the top 10 on Sunday. The Bulldogs received 38 of 63 first-place votes, their second lowest total of the season after an off week, but still bested number 2 Michigan, 1,536 points to 1,504. Georgia's number one streak, which started on October 9, 2022, is behind only Miami's streak of 21 weeks from 2001 to 02 and Southern California's 33 in a row from 2003 through 05. It would be a good bet to say that Miami's streak is close to being broken. However, Southern California's 33 weeks, that might be a stretch in today's game. It remains to be seen. Of course, Kirby Smart has a way of stockpiling players and plugging and playing. That's the reason they are number one. The Wolverines received 19 first-place votes after their latest blowout 49-0 against Michigan State, even though they're under investigation for being like the Houston Astros of college football. Michigan was unfazed after a week in which it was revealed the program is being investigated by the NCAA for a sign-stealing scheme that allegedly involved impermissible in-person scouting. Dude, just stay home next time. Just stay home, watch the game on TV, and when they pan that camera on the coach, when he putting the cardboard up over his mouth so you can't understand what he's saying, or when they happen to show him and he's using sign language, record it. TiVo. What, is that the word they use? I don't know what word they use. DVR it. So, that word. Use DVR. Ohio State held steady at number 3 after winning a top 10 matchup with Penn State. The Nittany Lions slipped 3 spots to 10th. The Buckeyes received 3 first-place votes, as did number 4 Florida State. Number 5 Washington and number 6 Oklahoma held their spots after close calls against unranked teams at home. Number 7 Texas and number 8 Oregon each moved up a spot. Number 9 Alabama returned to the top 10 after falling out in mid-September, which snapped a streak of 128 top 10 appearances that dated back to 2015. The Crimson Tide beat Tennessee for their 6th straight victory. The Volunteers dropped 4 spots to number 21. And now what I'm going to do is give you the rundown of the top 25 before I go to my next break. Number 1 is Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, Florida State. Number 5, Washington. Number 6, Oklahoma. Number 7, Texas. Number 8, Oregon. Number 9, Sweet Home, Alabama. Number 10, Penn State. Number 11, Oregon State. Number 12, Ole Miss. Number 13, Utah. Number 14, Notre Dame. Number 15, LSU. Number 16, Missouri, the Show Me State. Number 17, North Carolina. What a terrible loss they took. Number 18, Louisville. Number 19, Air Force. Number 20, Duke. Number 21, Tennessee. Number 22, Tulane. Number 23, UCLA. And right beneath them, I'm pretty sure that they're getting a good laugh out of this. 24, USC. And coming in at number 25, James Madison. And there you have the top 25. What I'm going to do right here, I am going to take another break because I am due for one. But when I come back, I'm going to take a look at the Heisman Watch as one particular player's Heisman stock rises after a dominant showing. Who may that be? Come back on the other side of this break, and I'll let you know. Welcome back to the Zone. I just love my music producer. I love the variety of sounds that come through my ear. Music bed. Oh, that would be me. I'm the engineer, producer. I'm all the above. That would be me. I just figured I would just throw that out there like that. No, like I say, when I do this, I am having a blast. I am having fun. If I'm not entertaining you, I know I'm at least entertaining myself. So as I went to the break, I mentioned to you that a particular player's stock, Heisman stock, is starting to rise after a dominant showing. So we're going to take a look at the 2023 Heisman Watch as J.J. McCarthy's Heisman stock rises after a dominant showing. So just 2 weeks ago, the Heisman Trophy conversation surrounded a pair of Pac-12 quarterbacks, Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams. Now, following Week 8 of the 2023 college football season, the race appears to be wide open. Both Penix and Williams struggled on Saturday, while several other signal callers across the nation put up jaw-dropping numbers, including Michigan's J.J. McCarthy. The Wolverines' junior QB put on a passing clinic in Michigan's dominant 49-0 victory over in-state rival Michigan State. Meanwhile, Oklahoma's Dylan Gabriel and Florida State's Jordan Travis had impressive showings as well, which should boost their Heisman stock. So here, let's take a look at how the Heisman favorites performed in Week 8 and how that could shake up the odds next week. So, number 1, Michael Penix Jr., QB, Washington. minus 130. Penix was a heavy Heisman favorite heading into Saturday's Pac-12 matchup against Arizona State. The Huskies were able to escape with a narrow 15-7 win over the Sun Devils, but it was not a pretty showing for Penix. The senior QB completed just 27 of 42 passes for 275 yards and 2 interceptions in the win. Penix did not throw a touchdown pass in the game, which marks the second time he has gone without a TD this season. The other one coming in Washington's 31-24 win over Arizona on September the 30th. Next, the Huskies take on Stanford on October the 28th. T2, whatever that's supposed to mean. I guess there's the number one and there's a tie for second. Dylan Gabriel, QB Oklahoma, plus 1,000. Gabriel had another solid outing this weekend, this one coming against his former team, the UCF Knights. The left-handed senior completed 25 of 38 passes for 253 yards and 3 touchdowns in the Sooners' 31-29 victory over the Knights. Gabriel completed passes to 9 different players in the win, with redshirt freshman Nick Anderson leading the way with 5 catches for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gabriel has had 3+ touchdowns in 5 of Oklahoma's 7 games this season. He has totaled 2,131 passing yards and 230 rushing yards while leading the Sooners to a 7-0 record. Next, the Sooners take on Kansas on October the 28th. Number 6, Oklahoma survives UFC in a 31-29 win. We'll get to that a little bit later, maybe. T2, here it is again. So yes, that's exactly what T2 means. It means it's a tie for second. J.J. McCarthy, QB, Michigan, plus 1,000. Michigan keeps rolling, and McCarthy is playing like a Heisman Trophy quarterback. The second-year starter played near perfect football in the Wolverines' 49 win over Michigan State. McCarthy was poised, accurate, and in control from start to finish, completing 21 of his 27 passes for 287 yards and 4 touchdowns. I wonder if those guys in green and white has some thoughts of sign stealing. The reason he was so accurate. Anyway, let me move on. Let me leave that alone. He didn't play much of the second half as the Wolverines held a 42-0 lead midway through the third quarter. Through 8 games this season, McCarthy is completing 78.1% of his passes for 1,799 yards and has scored 21 total touchdowns. Next, the Wolverines take on Purdue on November the 4th. Number 4, Jordan Travis, QB, Florida State, plus 1,200. Travis was outstanding in Florida's 38-20 win over number 16 Duke on Saturday. The senior completed 27 of 36 passes for 268 yards and 2 touchdowns while adding a team-high 62 yards rushing and a score on the ground. Travis was at his best late in the game, leading 3 straight scoring drives to help the Seminoles secure the victory and improve to 7-0. The Seminoles have now won 13 straight games and are the only remaining undefeated team in the ACC. Next, the Seminoles take on Wake Forest on October the 28th. Number 5, Jaden Daniels, QB, LSU, plus 1,400. Daniels stuffed the stat sheet once again on Saturday, this time in a dominant 62-0 win over Army. Daniels completed 11 of 15 passes for 279 yards and 3 touchdowns, while also adding a score on the ground. The do-it-all senior QB has now totaled more than 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns through 8 games this season. Next, the Tigers take on Alabama on November 4th. Number 6, Drake May, QB, North Carolina, plus 1,800. And I know that he's licking his wounds from that terrible loss they had at the hands of Virginia this past weekend. However, May shot up the Heisman board over the past 2 weeks with back-to-back outstanding performances against Syracuse and Miami. But the Tar Heels' talented QB struggled on Saturday in a 31-27 upset loss to Virginia. May completed just 24 of 48 pass attempts for 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a costly interception late in the game, which helped seal the victory for the Cavaliers. Next, the Tar Heels battle Georgia Tech on October 28th. T7, which means there's a tie for 7. Bo Nix, QB Oregon, plus 2,000. Nix made NCAA history on Saturday in the Ducks' 38-24 victory over Washington State. The QB senior completed 18 of 25 passes for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns while setting the NCAA record for most career starts with 54. Nix also added a rushing touchdown as Oregon became bowl eligible with his 6th win of the season. Next, the Ducks take on Utah on October 28th. That should be an interesting game. T7, here he is. You notice you haven't heard his name until now. He is slip sliding all the way. Doot, 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 doot. Slip sliding all the way. Caleb Williams, QB USC, plus 2,000. Williams' hope of becoming the second 2-time Heisman Trophy winner took another major hit Saturday in the Trojans' 34-32 loss to Utah. The do-it-all junior QB completed 24 of 34 passes for 256 yards, but didn't throw a touchdown pass in the loss. This was the first game in Williams' USC career in which he didn't have a touchdown pass. Williams did have a rushing score with 146 remaining to give USC a 32-31 lead. However, the Utes were able to put a game-winning drive together, which resulted in a last-second 38-yard field goal. Next, the Trojans take on California on October the 28th. I'm telling you, Lincoln Riley can get those quarterbacks to the pros. He can get them in Heisman Trophy contention. But Lincoln Riley needs to do something about that defense. For real. This is like watching OU on the West Coast. Hey. Anyway, there's some more quarterbacks to look at without all the detail. Number 9 is Carson Beck, QB Georgia Tech, plus 3,500. Beck and the Bulldogs had a bye this week. Next, the Bulldogs take on Florida on October 28th. Number 10, tied for 10, Jalen Milroe, QB Alabama, plus 5,000. Milroe has worked his way back into the Heisman conversation, and he had another good outing on Saturday in Alabama's 34-20 win over Tennessee. The dual-threat QB completed 14 of 21 passes for 220 yards and a pair of touchdowns as the Crimson Tide scored 27 straight after trailing 20-7 at halftime. Milroe has appeared in 7 games this season and is completing 64.7% of his passes for 1,617 yards and 13 touchdowns. He has also added 5 touchdowns on the ground while leading Alabama to a 71 mark. Next, the Crimson Tide host number 19 LSU on November the 4th. And T10, tied for 10th, Quinn Ewers, QB Texas, plus 5,000. Ewers had an efficient day in the Longhorns' 31-24 win over in-state foe Houston. The talented redshirt sophomore completed 23 of 29 passes for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he exited the game after getting hit on a scramble late in the third quarter. Both of Ewers' touchdown passes came in the first quarter as he connected with Adonai Mitchell for a 14-yard score on the Longhorns' first offensive drive and then found Xavier Worthy for a 42-yard score on the second drive. He has totaled 1,915 passing yards and 13 touchdowns through 7 games. Next, the Longhorns take on BYU on October the 28th. And there are too many tied for 10, so I'm just going to leave it with you right there. Maybe I'll give this guy some love because we look at all the quarterbacks. Blake Corum, running back, plus 5,000. Corum didn't have the huge day, but he didn't need to as the Wolverines were dominant in a 49-0 win over Michigan State. The senior carried the ball 15 times, 59 yards, and a touchdown on the ground while adding 2 catches for 17 yards through the air. Corum continued his streak of reaching the end zone as he scored a rushing touchdown in every game this season. He now has 13 rushing touchdowns in 8 games. What I'm going to do is just mention some of these other names that are tied in the 10th spot, such as Drew Allar, QB, Penn State, Cal McCord, QB, Ohio State. And that right there will pretty much do it for In the Zone. Hope you have enjoyed today's podcast wherever you may be listening from. I enjoy doing, like I said, I enjoy doing what I'm doing because of the relationships that are forged, the interviews that come about. And I'm getting close to my 100th episode, so I'm going to have to plan something spectacular for that. I don't know what I'm going to have planned, but I'm going to plan something. Maybe a couple of guest interviews. Something, I tell you what, why don't you, the listening public, give me some feedback and tell me what you think I should do for my 100th episode. But until the next time, it's time for me to get up out of here. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I'll be doing this again sooner rather than later. Once again, In the Zone with Anthony.